as usual. So I'm not unduly worried because I think this is something that the government will or should prioritize. So I think we should be able to get a bit of uplift towards the end of the month.
Okay, so we understand that there are so many speculations as regards why this might have happened and why we are not seeing the negotiation coming forth as one would have expected. But then I'd like to crave your indulgence, Chukwuemeka, because this is one issue that we need to focus on more. And Bolade, both of you, I'd like to ask if we can continue with this conversation tomorrow so that we can look at all the intricacies and all the issues surrounding it. Can we do that tomorrow by 11?
Well, that should be all right. But
Okay.
I'll check and I confirm in terms of my timing. Thank you very much.
All right. So, I mean, this has to happen because we have a ministerial scorecard happening live in Abuja that we need to take right now. So I'm glad that you've been able to come to an agreement with us. Definitely, we'll revisit this topic and continue tomorrow. So we go on a very short break, and when we return, we'll be linking up with our crew in Abuja for the ministerial briefing as the ministers continue to engage with stakeholders as regards their scorecard. Stay with us.
Members of the media will now have the opportunity to engage with all of them. I want to urge you, give your commentaries, questions, and observations in line with what they have presented. Now, my singular honor and privilege by the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tuggar, take the stage. Thank you, gentlemen of the press.
The Honorable Minister of Information and National Orientation, Muhammad Idris, Honorable Minister of Interior, Dr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, Special Advisor for Information and Strategy, Special Advisor, Media and Public Communications, PAMSECs, here present, heads of agencies, gentlemen of the press, media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon to you all. I thank you for this opportunity to speak about what the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been doing with regards to delivering on the responsibilities given to it by President Tinubu, Government of Nigeria, and the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Some of you may recall that last time I stood here I delved straight into facts and figures, what we had been able to attract in terms of investment to Nigeria from other countries. This is what I started with, because we were doing a lot of exciting things. But these things take time. There's a gestation period. So if Nigeria attracts 14 billion from India, it doesn't mean 14 billion is automatically transferred that same day to Nigeria. It takes time. There are projects, there are different ways of applying it. So this time around, what I'm going to do is focus on what we've been doing for Nigerians directly. And the most important thing that we've been doing, in my opinion, is redeeming Nigeria's image abroad. When I say redeeming Nigeria's image abroad, I'm talking about compensating for any faults that we may have projected. And I think we've succeeded in that thus far. But so the next stage is really to exalt and glorify Nigeria's image abroad. In terms of redemption, we now have a good image. I'm confident to say that. Now, how have we been able to do that? We have done that by restoring the dignity of Nigerian citizens in other countries, and by having a zero tolerance for the humiliation of Nigerians anywhere in the world. And it doesn't matter how high or how low. It can be Victor Osimhen trying to be rubbish or trying to be prejudiced towards, and it can be somebody who is lonely, living in a country outside Nigeria. Now, I will give you real life examples, and I will start by a young man from Benue State by the name of Jesse Ode, who was locked up in a country. I'm not going to name the country. No need to know. We're not going to be naming names. And even though there were instructions to even have him released by the authorities, the highest authorities of that country, it never happened for years, until the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration negotiated through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, using diplomatic channels and diplomatic pressure, to have Jesse Ode released. He's back home, he's living safely, he's going about his business. There are 3 young ladies that were wrongfully accused, again in another country in the Middle East. Fatima Kanai Gamboy, Hadiza Abba, and Fatima Umati Mala. Again, we secured their release. They're back here at home. You can see their pictures there for those that play. I'll give you an example of another set of Nigerians that overstayed in an African country. And because of that, they were locked up again. They were detained. Because when you stay longer than you're supposed to, longer than your visa, then you start, a meter starts running. And you have to pay before you leave the country. And if you can't pay, you get detained. We secured their release and also bought tickets for them to come back. Emmanuel David is there to give testimony. Peter Chinonso Abalobi is there to give testimony, and so is Daniel Ebuluese. So there's so many other examples, because sometimes the problem we have in foreign affairs is it's difficult to show what we're doing, because we don't award contracts, we don't employ people, young graduates or school leavers en masse. So when we're asked what do we do, people just think, no, there's nothing happening. But so we're in the same boat with the Minister of Information. Our remit is not to be awarding contracts. So that's why I'm beginning with this, so that people begin to comprehend what it is we do. And certain things we cannot brag about, because we want to maintain good relations with the countries that we're dealing with as well. Nigeria also always puts forward moral precepts and ethical considerations in the implementation of its foreign policy. And that's why you see us, for instance, voting along with other countries in favor of Ukraine in the United Nations. But at the same time, you also see us standing with Palestine, with Gaza. And even when we do that, it's okay for a country like South Africa, because of its history, because of what it's been through, to be the ones to take Israel to court, the International Court of Justice. But what Nigeria is doing, because of those moral precepts and ethical considerations, is so much also behind the scenes. So people don't know that it was Nigeria that was negotiating the exit of babies, of infants from Gaza to neighboring countries, to Jordan, to Egypt, to United Arab Emirates, so that they will be able to be treated. They can get the treatment that they could not get in Gaza. Of course, this is also a demonstration of the concept of strategic autonomy. We will deal with whoever we want to, whichever country we want to, based on our national interests and based on certain treaty and obligations and agreements that we've entered into, either bilaterally or multilaterally. And that's why, even though we may differ with certain countries, we still find ourselves on the same page on other issues. With the United States of America, we have a very strong relationship. Again, I want to give an example of something tangible that has been done: a refund of certain stolen funds that were taken to the US, impounded, sale of a particular yacht, something that was stuck. It was under this administration that we negotiated for the repatriation of those funds. And this was done almost one-to-one between myself and the then Deputy Secretary of State. And there was a deadline because they wanted to conclude before handing over, because we had put so much pressure. And we succeeded in that. And still on the US, I want to talk about the African Growth Opportunities Act. A lot of African countries were looking to Nigeria to lead the charge to see that the African Growth Opportunities Act was extended, because the US Congress was looking to, it was considering bringing it to an end. It is important because it allows a lot of African countries to export to the United States of America so that they don't face tariffs. Now, we were not only negotiating for that, but we were pushing for finished products to be exported. So we don't want to just be exporting raw materials or food items directly from the farm like yam. No. We want to export garments, synthetic materials, because we have ramped up production of polymer, of plastics, of synthetic materials from our refineries. We have the 4 refineries owned by government with a capacity of 445,000 barrels per day. In addition, now we have the Dangote refinery with 650,000 barrels per day. We have Indorama also producing synthetics that can be used for face caps, for trainers, for canvas, shoes, etc. And when we do that, we're also promoting Nigerian businesses. We're putting them in front, so that a rough and tumble can export to the US instead of just the default setting, which is Africa always exporting raw materials. So this is something that we're doing. And of course, when I talk about Indorama, it was under this administration also that the expansion of Indorama's capacity was negotiated and the investment came through. So promoting Nigerian businesses, again, to do that, to speak for others on the continent and to represent so that we can interrogate the global financial architecture. We need to be members of the G20, and now we've become regular invitees. We were invited to India, we were invited to Brazil, now we have also been invited by South Africa. Each country that chairs invites us. And I will also talk about China and the upgrading of our relationship to a comprehensive strategic partnership. But that was not just an empty pronouncement, because we were also able to get China to allow Nigeria to start exporting groundnuts, cashew, ginger, at least five products. And then we're also able to negotiate, of course, the currency swap and looking to expand it. And when I talk about India, I've talked about the 14 billion that was attracted over a number of years that will be invested in Nigeria. Indorama, 8 billion. There's a steel plant in Akwa Ibom worth 3.5 billion that is being built by the Jindal Group, the largest steel manufacturer in India. And credit has to go to an officer that retired not so long ago, Ambassador Ahmed Sule of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He was the substantive ambassador in 2023 when this deal was negotiated, and it was due to his consistency and the pressure. So these are unsung heroes of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. When we talk about Brazil, we talk about JBS that visited about 2 weeks ago. They're the largest players in terms of livestock in the world. They slaughter something like 80 million chicken a day from all over the world, 20-something million cows all over. They have decided they're coming to invest, and this is following in the footsteps of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's visit to Brazil. They are not only going to invest in livestock, but also the feed, so soybeans. Brazil is right up there when it comes to that. We have the Green Imperative Project, which we signed recently. I believe it was even this week, worth $1.1 billion. With Brazil. This is something that was also stuck for such a long time. It's finally been concluded. It's all over the media. I'm sure if you check, you will see. In the presence of the Vice President of Nigeria, Kashim Shettima. And this is going to have one project per local government, so 774 projects. And the Foreign Minister of Brazil visited me again this same week, which is why we had we pushed the discussion towards niobium. Niobium is a mineral that is found here in Nigeria that Brazil is a leader in producing, but not just producing, refining it. So the metals processing of niobium. And they were very excited when we took this up. They want to come and invest in metals processing capacity, building metals processing capacity here in Nigeria. So you see, these relationships also are like a muscle. If you don't exercise them, they go flabby. And we have so many agreements, so many relationships that have been dormant, and what we've been doing is bringing them back to life and using it to take up opportunities. Europe, we were there recently. We were in the United Kingdom, where we had a retreat with the Foreign Secretary David Lammy, and again we engaged engage them on the issue of students and student visas, because they want our students to go to their institutions of higher learning, but they're not issuing enough visas. So we're exploring the possibilities of using remote learning. There's so many businesses, because we're so far advanced in terms of startups, in terms of even business process outsourcing, which is growing. So we actually arranged meetings for some of these business process outsourcing outfits to discuss that. We engaged with the diaspora, because it's one of our 4Ds. So we were in Africa House. We visited Money Point, which is our latest unicorn, because we're trying, as I said, as much as possible to always put Nigerian businesses up front and to continue to support and encourage them. And we want to listen to what their problems are, so that we'll be able to solve such problems through diplomatic means. And of course, we are looking to leverage our diaspora wherever we find them, which is why it was the Nigerian diaspora essentially that arranged a visit for us to the House of Parliament, where we engaged with them. We engaged with members of the House of Parliament, the House of Lords. We talked to so many of the MPs that were quite keen on increasing investments and engagements with Nigeria. And of course, we also met with the British International Investment, which is a development finance institution that is looking to do more, where again, we're trying to push them towards linking high street brands with some of these things that I was talking about, synthetics, how to produce trainers, canvas, face caps, and so forth, and providing the funding also for infrastructure projects. Germany, as you all know, I served in Germany, so you know that I'm not going to dwell too much on some of the achievements there, but let me just highlight what we have managed to do with the European School of Management, where we secured, for starters, 20 scholarships for Nigerians. Yesterday, there was the Berlin Energy Transition Dialogue, where Nigeria was announced as a partner to Germany in the Green Guarantee Group, which is going to be providing credit guarantees for businesses in the renewable sector, solar, hydro, etc. And of course, it was the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that negotiated successfully the signing of an agreement with Geoscan, that is working with the Ministry of Solid Minerals on lithium mining and exploration. That has gone very far. We have a lot of lithium, and we're looking to increase the exploration of that, but also, again, like I said earlier, domesticating the processing capacity, not for others to take the raw lithium out, refine it, and then sell it to other people, add value, where we don't get the benefits of adding the value, employment, and getting more out of it. So let me move briefly to the Middle East. Saudi Fund for Development visited us recently, and of course it's all to do with investing also. Saudi is very keen, and we're collaborating with them in terms of food security, which is Mr. President's #1 priority. They also, as you know, most of these countries in the Middle East are deserts. So in terms of food production, they are looking to partner with countries like Nigeria that are more verdant. They have a $7.7 trillion halal economy. Everything that is halal, that is slaughtered the right way through Islamic processes. Now, we are working closely with the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa. We brought them in. It was the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and of course, once we bring them in, we pass them on to the Ministry of Finance, to Central Bank of Nigeria, to the Renewed Hope Infrastructure Fund, and so forth. So that has gone far. An agreement has already been signed for the halal economy. And there are certain Nigerian businesses that are already taking advantage of such opportunities. And of course, in terms of food security, we're dealing with Saudi Arabia, with Egypt. Egypt is also interested in investing in Nigeria. Not too long ago, I traveled with the Minister of Agriculture, Minister of Water Resources, where we engaged with Egypt. They want to invest in our river basin development authorities. And we have established a new relationship with Bahrain, because we never sealed that agreement on establishing the relationship. These are countries. Bahrain is, I believe, the first country in the Middle East to establish a petroleum economy. So they're quite keen to invest. We have increased Nigeria's territory under this administration. That is the outer limits of our continental shelf. It's something that was ongoing, that was dragging, but it has been finalized now. So our territorial waters have been increased. Digitization, the ministry internally is digitizing. And I'm always on the permanent secretary's case. We need to move faster. Notarization of documents, legalization of documents. We want to have a handshake with the Ministry of Interior that has done a fabulous job with regards to passport issuance, visas, and so forth, so that digitally we will be able to communicate and we will be able to harmonize the processes. I have not spoken about Africa, so I'll talk about Africa and our recent victory in the African Union elections, where Nigeria was the only country to sweep its elections. First round, Nigeria was voted as a member of the Peace and Security Council. First round, Bankole Adeoye, Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security, was voted back to his position. And don't think it's easy, especially when we did it without spending a penny. We leveraged on Nigeria's image and goodwill and tax. And you should see what some other countries were spending without getting the joy. So it is no small feat. We have to understand our stature, our image, and what we've been able to achieve with regards to redeeming Nigeria's image abroad, as I started earlier. And in the African Union, of course, we have successfully, under this administration, brought the African Central Bank. It's going to be domesticated here. It's going to be in Nigeria, in Abuja. This is something, again, that was dragging. And for those of you that are in startups, the advantage here is, if you look at other continents, when you register a startup or you have a license, you can operate in all the other countries. And this is what the African Central Bank is going to do. And since we're leaders in startups, in fintech, it's going to become even easier for Nigerian startups to do that once the African Central Bank is up and running. And then, of course, there was the sea lift agreement where Nigerian vessels of the Nigerian Navy would be used to move around troops, African troops, for peacekeeping. And it's not going to be for free, because Nigeria will be paid for its services. And the base is next door to us in Cameroon. And this was concluded at the African Union. I will talk briefly about I talked about the African Central Bank and the startups. I have to mention the Technical Aid Corps. This is something that Nigeria has been doing since 1987, sending out professionals, university lecturers, engineers, doctors. The Director General is here. And what we have managed to do now is, instead of just sending the volunteers for free, we are going to start giving countries that are in need of Nigerian professionals outside of that the opportunity to work with the Technical Aid Corps, so that they pay, they invest in training. If the British NHS wants our nurses, then they can be trained through the technical aid courses. It's already existing. And then we can send them out, but we train enough for us, enough for them, not to send everybody out. So that's something else that is ongoing. When we talk about ECOWAS, all we keep hearing is AES is leaving, AES is leaving. Nobody is talking about the successes. The ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme, where Nigeria, 1,000 Nigerian businesses have registered in that scheme. They've registered over 11,000 products. And those are the 2024 figures. It's increasing by the day. You don't have to pay the taxes, the levies, so that we benefit more from trading with each other. There is, of course, the African Atlantic Gas Pipeline, which is the Nigeria-Morocco gas pipeline that has been adopted by ECOWAS. The agreements are ready to be signed, and this would see Nigerian gas, since we have 207 trillion cubic feet of it, delivered all the way to Morocco through 15 countries. And Morocco is tied to Europe through the Maghreb line. So this presents an opportunity, and it's part of the dialogue we're also having with the Americans, because they can come and domesticate and invest, first of all, in building the pipeline, and then utilize the gas for artificial intelligence. That's their big tech, since they're heavy in the US government at the moment, and the US government is promoting them. They can invest in data mining, in artificial intelligence, which consumes a lot of electricity. The problem the world is facing now is the shortage of electricity. When you have so many electric vehicles, then you don't have enough electricity for buildings, for other use, for heating. So Nigeria is blessed when it comes to that. And there are other countries also that will plug into that, like Senegal, that will be producing gas. Same way that Ghana started with us with the West Africa gas pipeline. Today Ghana is also producing into the West Africa gas pipeline. I think I will leave that for now. There's also the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline that we're working on with Algeria, and guess who? Niger Republic. 3 weeks ago, my colleague, the Minister of State for Gas, traveled to Algiers. He met with the Minister of Energy for Algeria and Minister of Energy of Niger Republic. So don't believe what you read. There's a lot happening. Lastly, let me talk about what we are doing in our building itself, Tafawa Balewa House. We have the atrium where we showcase Nigerian artists. So far, I think we've showcased about 20, where we display their art to visitors and dignitaries that visit our building from all over the world. The same way we showcase cuisine, and we invite Nigerian restaurants and other culinary experts. And this all has to do, of course, with the 4Ds: democracy, development, demography, and diaspora. And this concept of strategic autonomy that gives us all this leverage to engage with all of these countries all over the world. There's so much more I can say, but time is limited, and we will continue to explain as we go along. I thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for listening.
Please all make the applause please louder. Thank you very much, the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs. We'll move into the next presentation that will take another 30 minutes. Permit me at this time to invite to the microphone the Honorable Minister of Interior, Dr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Information and National Orientation, the Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs, all special advisors, and all appointees in the House, and the permanent secretaries in the House. The Ministry of Interior, just as we know, is in charge of what we call citizenship integrity and the enhancement of internal security in Nigeria. And in the last 1 year or more, since President Tinubu has been in office as President of Nigeria, we know.
Of course, on your screen is the ministerial briefing where we have Nigerian ministers come on the podium to actually share what they have been able to achieve in the last 1 year as part of their portfolio, and of course, what the outlook would be for the year 2025. A few minutes ago, we had the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Nigeria, Yusuf Tuggar, talk about what he has been able to achieve, what his ministry has been able to achieve under his watch, which has to do with seeing to the repatriation of Nigerians who are unlawfully incarcerated in different countries, amongst other issues and other laudable achievements that he has been able to record so far. And one of them, quite poignant, is the fact that Nigeria has been able to establish some sort of diplomatic ties with the UK, with EU, with other African countries for the benefit of the country. Of course, I would like to let you know that concurrently, the House of Representatives is holding a plenary session right there in the Green Chamber in Abuja, where we understand that a motion is being set to actually discuss the declaration of a state of emergency by the President, Bola Tinubu, for Rivers State, where we understand that the governor of the state has been temporarily suspended. And of course, the State House of Assembly also has been halted from carrying out any sort of legislative activity right there. So by the time discussions commence in the Green Chamber, definitely we'll be bringing you live broadcast of that. But at this particular time, we'll continue with the ministerial briefing, where we have the Minister of Interior also share what his ministry has been able to achieve in the last 1 year.
A lot of these border posts have been reconstructed and officers on duty to ensure that interterrestrial migration is regulated. That's number one. Number two, in fact, it will interest you that the Nigerian Immigration Service didn't have a command and control center for a country, the biggest country in Africa, over 230 million people, and there is no command and control center for migration management. It makes me we're just joking. This president came, and what did he do? Within 12 months, from scratch, from foundation, a command and control center was built. And not just built, the command and control center was equipped, not just equipped, a command and control center was integrated with all security checklists and database everywhere in the world on real-time basis. And what is the result? Just 2 days ago, somebody on the red list of Interpol was apprehended in Abuja just because of the command and control center. Last week, somebody on the red list again of Interpol wanted in Ireland at the point of entry was apprehended right in Lagos Murtala Mohammed International Airport. What is that telling us? It is no longer business as usual. Our border solution now, our border situation is business as usual. Nobody wanted anywhere in the world. A person of interest will get into Nigeria without Nigeria law position to pick such a person and hand over such a person to law enforcement agencies. And the command and control center, it also interests you that within the what we call the batting center that was commissioned by Mr. President in December, Immigration Service was established in 1964. That makes it about 60 years old, almost 61 years old. There was nothing, we never had a data center. Imagine an agency that deals with data of Nigerians without a data center of its own, relying on third parties. We started, and what this government has been able to build, it's arguably one of the biggest data centers in Nigeria. We started by proposing a 1.4 petabyte. What do we have now? We have an 8.3 petabyte data center. That is one of the biggest we can get anywhere in Africa. We now have that. What it means is that the security of Nigerian data, the security of even our information, and again, what I call the archival knowledge has been enhanced. It means that in the next 10, 20 years, there is a cross-reference point for our agencies and our security agencies in general. We've been able to do that. And of course, we have also been able to be what we call our visa approval center. There is no country in the world that I know where you approve visas in all embassies or consulates all over. What you have in countries are issuance, approval, going through a normal vetting process, because the visa is actually not, and I repeat, visa is not actually a travel document. Visa is a migration control document. You use it to control who comes in to your country. So a lot of background checks needed to be done. That was not present, because what we had was an officer being the recipient, the same officer being the evaluator, the same officer being the approving person, and also the issuer. There was no control. But today, we have a centralized visa approval center standing in Nigerian immigration. Also, beyond that, as I speak to you, we have started the centralization of our passport issuance, because we realized that we were issuing passports in more than 50 locations. There is nowhere in the world that is done. We took this to the Federal Executive Council, and it was approved. Because your passport is a security document. You hold it, but it belongs to Nigeria. That is the truth. It's a Nigerian document. It's not your document. And you centralize the issuance of this. In UK, passport is issued in only one place. In America, it's only in 2 places. In China, it is 1. But in Nigeria, we have more than 50-something issuing centers. At the end of the day, so many people carry Nigerian passport without being Nigerians. And we saw that that was a dent on the image of this country. And what have we done? Get to the NIS, you will see that we have centralized the passport production. We started with phase 1 with about 14 countries now being produced here and being DHL'd to the embassies in those countries. But the issue is here in Nigeria. That gives us the authenticity, it enhances the integrity of our travel document. Beyond that, we have to also say this, that go to our airports today, you will see the e-gates. Because anywhere you go to JFK, you arrive at JFK, you arrive at Heathrow, what do you see? You see British citizens get to Heathrow, they go through their e-gate, they don't need to have business with the immigration service unless they are persons of interest. But there, it was headache. You'll be on the queue, coming to Nigeria, you get to Nigeria as a Nigerian, stay on the same queue and other sort of spread. But what do we have to do? We have e-gates installed in our airport. So when you come into Nigeria, we're welcoming you home, and we are telling you, welcome back to where you are loved and where you're welcome. So we have been able to do this and also integrate all these solutions to all criminal database systems in the world. Maybe Interpol 247, MIDAS solution, everything. We have done this, make life easier for people without compromising national security. It's about striking the appropriate balance, and I think that is what this government under Mr. President has been able to do. And guess what? All these solutions that had been built at the level of NIS, they are off-grid, because we talked about the issue of power. What we have there is about 4 megawatt solar farm that powers all this to ensure 24/7 uptime. Because just as you know, you cannot, and I repeat, you can't ensure 99% accuracy when it comes to national security security when it comes to border control. It has to be 100%. So you can't afford a blind spot, and that is one thing we have been able to do under this president. And also to our passports. When we came on board, we met a scenario where we had over 200,000 passports that were, backlogs. What did we do? Within 2.5 weeks, we cleared these passports without government investing an extra kobo. We were able to clear the whole of this. And we made a promise to Nigerians. And what was that promise? The promise we made was that this was not going to repeat itself. It's not about solving the problem. It's about making sure that there is a sustainable solution, making sure that these issues do not happen again. And as I speak to you today, go through, if you apply for a Nigerian passport, you will know the story has changed. The story has changed because Nigerians, on the average, within 2 weeks, you get your international passport, and especially Nigerians in diaspora. We also realize that the obligation of this government is not just to Nigerians in Nigeria, but of course Nigerians all over the world. And we realize that, and I want to especially appreciate the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for the support that we have. I really want to appreciate the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Because we came up with the idea and we said, listen, in a place like Canada, I can't imagine somebody flying 6-8 hours to Ottawa just because he needs to renew a passport. The kind of backlog, how many people, how many applicants do we have? What is the level of the backlog? And the question is this, how many can we take at a time? There are places like in the UK where you have to wait for 4, 5, 6 months before you can get a date for capture. That wasn't the idea. And we said, this is 2024, this is 2025, not 1985. Technology must play its role. That's the truth. Technology must play its role. And what have we been able to do? We introduced what we call the contactless passport application system for renewals, because we realized that 70% of those applying for passports are actually people looking for renewal, not first-time applicants. First-time applicants were like 30%. So what did we do? We introduced what we call the contactless solution. How does it work? Simple. We already have your biometric. So you can verify your biometric without you coming to the office. All you need to do is download the app, confirm your biometric. If it is you, we already have your details in our database anyway. If it matches, then we get you your passport and we send your passport to you. It's not something novel. It's what is done in the UK, it's what's done in the US, it's not what is done all over the world. So we think that being a Nigerian should not be stressful. It should be a sweet and pleasant experience, as Mr. President has always said. So what we decided to do, and I tell you, we started in November in Canada. We tried it in Canada. We saw that it was successful. We moved to Europe in February, and just this March we moved to Asia. And by next month we will now move to America. Just to spread it around the world. So what it means is that to that your son, who is a student, who needs to renew his passport, he doesn't need to cancel or miss class. He doesn't need to put extra burden of buying tickets, going to hotel, lodging, waiting to be able to renew passport. He should be able to do it within 5 to 10 minutes within the comfort of his home. That is the Nigerian experience. That is what we want as the Nigerian story. A story that is built on sweet experience. That is what we have been able to do. And let me tell you, especially in Canada, a lot of our students were almost out of status because of issue of passport. And there was a day, a high-level person came to my house as early as after 6 a.m. telling me, oh, my son needs a passport in Canada now, there is no date, or else the PR, how? And I said to myself, to get a passport, why must you need to know anybody? It shouldn't be. So, but with technology, you do it 5 minutes, you get it, we mail it to you from the embassy mails it to you, and you are good. And with that, and in UK, because I got a news about the UK, I also have to use someone to say that people, about 40,000 people, the contactless solution is live and direct in UK. In the last 2 weeks ago, or in the last 1 week, we've done over 1,000. Over 1,000 people. That would have taken us how many days if we had not automated the solution. So the solution is automated. So as we speak also on the issue of the passport, when we came on board, we realized that we were spending over almost 800 million naira a year doing what? Scanning documents. That when you bring your breeder document, immigration will now scan it, they will now pay whatever. We're spending almost 800 million. But what did we do? We automated the process and said, listen, we don't have the money to waste. Why can't individuals upload their documents? And that's what we have done. And today, that has saved NIS of about 800 million naira every year. Just by that singular decision. That's part of what we've been able to do. And of course, we also thought that there is a need for us to bring integrity into our passport. When we came on board, we realized that whenever a Nigerian carries a Nigerian passport and travels abroad, when you get to any airport in the world, by the time you present your passport, you try to scan it, it gives a red sign. Why? Because Nigeria, our passport was not integrated to what we call the PKD, that's the Public Key Directory, which is ICAO in Montreal. And we saw that was embarrassing the image of Nigeria. And guess what? For the first time, this particular administration got Nigeria imported into the PKD infrastructure in Montreal. That was achieved by this particular administration. What it means now is that anywhere in the world, the Nigerian passport can be certified, can be read, and the Nigerian passport is on the same scale as what you have of all other top passports you are seeing in the world. We have been able to do that. And of course, in terms of our visa administration, we also realize that for a country of 230 million, honestly speaking, Nigeria we should have more people coming into Nigeria than we have. And we realize the stress with our visa acquisition process. And what did we do? We reviewed it. We submitted what we call Nigerian Visa Policy 2024 to Mr. President, which Mr. President graciously approved. And that is why last December, Minister of Creative Economy will tell you that we had more people coming into Nigeria than ever because the whole system in terms of getting Nigerian visas were relaxed without us foregoing our security considerations. And I want to assure you further that in the next couple of weeks, we are still going to make it more seamless because we are almost at the top of that. Well, we are introducing our e-visa rather than what we call the visa on arrival. The e-visa means you get your visa within 48 hours maximum coming into Nigeria. We have to make it easy. And with the era where you will need to go to, it's compulsory you go to visa application center for biometric before you come to Nigeria, even for 1 week, for 2 days, that era is gone. We are opening our space to make sure that we are able to bring more people into Nigeria. I don't want to dwell only on Nigerian Immigration Service because, and of course, our border control, maritime border control, our land border control, surveillance solution via the e-border solution is up and running as we speak. We have been able to handle about 60% of our land border, which is about 2,400 kilometers, have been covered by issue of our border surveillance. And of course, with monitoring and everything happening in a centralized location, at the level of the Nigerian Immigration Service headquarters. And of course, the remaining 40% is phase 2, which covers the 40%, is what we are presently working on. And with that, we should be able to have an equal view of all the 4,047 kilometers of our land border. We hope that with this, having information ahead, we'll be able to play the critical role that the Immigration Service is supposed to play, which is border control. And of course, when support is needed, immigration can escalate to the Nigerian military for support. So these are part of the things we've done. And now to the issue of the correctional service. I will tell you that I will just give you a small example. When we had an issue, what we call, under this administration, we've not had a jail attack. Yes, we've had 2 jailbreaks, but no jail attack. The difference, of course, is jailbreak is when people escape from correctional centers. Jail attack is when people forcefully, like what happened in Kuje years back, that is jail attack. We've not had any, and that's because of the collaboration between all our our agencies, the Nigerian Police, Nigerian Army, NSS, DSS, NI, all of them, we've been working together, and we've employed what we call proactive policing, rather than being reactive. So that's why we've not had any. But I'll give you an example. When we had a jailbreak in Niger, in Suleja, some couple of months ago, it was difficult for us to be able to even release the details of the inmates that absconded, the fugitives, because we didn't have access to their data, to their solutions. It took us days, support of NIMSI, road safety, the BBL, and etc., to be able to get a lot of the information before we got it. But about 2 months later, we had the flood that happened in Borno, in Maiduguri. And in less than 6 hours, we had shared the biometric, the picture, all the details of all inmates. We had shared it with all security agencies. And in less than 24 hours, we started picking them all one by one. Why is it so? It is because this particular administration has successfully, in partnership with NIMSI, was successfully captured all our inmates, and it's a constant thing, such that there is a biometric data of all inmates. What that means is that if you think you escape, you are only on the sabbatical holiday, we will pick you wherever we will pick you. So these are some of the things that Mr. President has been able to do. And also, we must also know that when this particular administration came, Mr. President has increased the feeding allowance of our inmates by 50%, which is huge, regarding where we are. Yes, we're not here where we want to be, but we are not where we were, and we're not where we don't want to be. Mr. President has increased the feeding of our inmates, the feeding allowance of our inmates. That's number one. And also, Mr. President, as we speak today, you get to Kuje, you will see that Kuje Correctional Center is not where you used to know. It has changed. And ditto some other correctional centers. As we are speaking, we have not less than about 8 or 9 correctional centers that are going through one innovation or the other. As I always say, it's easy for people to criticize. It's easy for people to say, oh, this administration, what are you doing with respect to correctional centers? We have to understand that we have 248 correctional centers. And these 248 correctional centers that we have, a lot of these were even created before people like us were born. I know that the one in Ikoyi was built in 1956. The one in Suleja, I think is Suleja, that was 1914. Yes, Suleja was constructed in 1914. That was the year of amalgamation of Nigeria. So Mr. President inherited a lot of a lot of things that needed to be done. And of course, Rome was not built in a day. But we've started the process of renovating those correctional centers. I always say, if years back, 20 years, 30 years, 15 years, there's been this sort of constant renovation, we will not be where we are. Mr. President is starting and doing all these things from scratch, and we get to these correctional centers. You will know that it's no longer business as usual. And of course, Mr. President has also approved the process for the commencement of the process of the relocation of 29 correctional centers across the country. I'll give you an example. Imagine the correctional center in Ikoyi, a correctional center sharing a fence with the Polo Club. That's not ideal in anywhere in the world. You go to the one in Ibadan, it's inside the market, in the one in the correctional center. When there was the jailbreak in Suleja, it was impossible for us to catch them immediately because the correctional center was less than 5 meters from the next house, which is a gross violation of the law. The law says there must be a buffer of minimum of 100 meters. That is what the law says. So, but a lot of these urbanization has eaten up. So the president has approved that we should start the process of creating these correctional centers to be able to sanitize our system. And of course, I have just 5 minutes and I need to touch some other points. And of course, we must also know that over 3,000 within the last 6 months of last year of our inmates were rehabilitated. When I talk about rehabilitated, I mean inmates, because when you go to a correctional center, the name changed from prisons to correctional, because to us, the prison is a place of incarceration. But a correctional center is a place of correction, is a place of reformation, is a place of transformation. So in line with that, what have we been able to do? In the last 3 months, in the last 6 months of last year, we were able to train and empower over 3,000 of our inmates, so that once they go out of correctional centers, they will have something meaningful to do, and it will reduce the rate of recidivism. And also, let me say this before I leave correctional center, that last year we decongested our correctional center by 5%, because over 4,000 inmates were released in one day by us without government paying a dime. All we needed to do, those inmates, we did an analysis, and we realized that about 4,000 people were in correctional centers based on petty fines, inability to pay fines of 5,000, 10,000, etc. And we reached out to the private sector, they collaborated with us, and in one day we were able to release over 4,082 inmates in one day. What that means is that in feeding, it saves government of minimum of 1 billion naira a year. That is the savings that particular action gives to the government of Nigeria. And of course, I will go to the NSCDC. The NSCDC, just as we know, is in charge of the protection of critical national asset of government. And part of the things that the NSCDC has been able to do is, just a second. Part of the things that the NSCDC has been able to do is the establishment of what we call the mining marshals. Because what we realized was that there was a lot of crisis within the mining sector of solid minerals, and we needed to solve that solution and solve that problem. And at that time, there was a bit of controversy. Should we establish a new agency or not, and etc. But we sat down with the Minister of Solid Minerals. It was a partnership and our understanding with the Ministry of Solid Minerals, which is what Mr. President has always preached: inter-ministerial collaboration and support. And what did we do? We came up with the mining marshals. They are civil defense officers under the control of the Ministry of Solid Minerals. And the effect is what we can see today in terms of our protection of our solid mineral site. And you know that the level of crisis has actually gone down. And also, I have to also say that we were able to, in the last 1 year, to destroy over 2,125 illegal refineries and oil dumps across the Niger Delta. That's part of what NSCDC were able to do. About 205 trucks conveying illegally refined petroleum products were also apprehended, and over 700 suspects arrested, and a lot of them being prosecuted as we speak. And of course, last year we secured over 345 convictions by the NSCDC, while about 187 cases are still in court as we speak. And this is, of course, this particular administration too has been able to we have been able to train and deploy over 10,000 agro rangers across our farm settlements to be able to give support to the Ministry of Agriculture. And of course, this administration has also been able to procure over 100 operational vehicles for the cause, because we know we want them to work, and it will be wickedness if we expect them to deliver when we have not empowered them to deliver. And this particular administration under Mr. President has procured over 100 operational vehicles and about 12 gun boats to be able to secure our assets, our maritime assets. These are some of the few. Because of time, there's a lot more to be done, to be said, but with respect to them. And of course, I'll talk about the board. The board, this is very important to me, because for the first, and it will be very uncharitable to Mr. President, if I don't say one, my time is up, but please just give me 3 minutes to talk about the board. I'll be very uncharitable to Mr. President if I don't talk about the board, because when we came on board, we inherited promotion backlogs. But as I speak to you, to all officers in paramilitary, we do not have any promotion backlog again. Nobody, we do not. In 2 years, within 18 months, Mr. President has approved and it has been implemented promotion of 52,000 paramilitary officers. It has never happened. There is no officer today who works within our paramilitary structure that will say the promotion is hanging. Even as we speak, just yesterday, we started the promotion exercise, the exam for 2025. We have already started the 2025 exam. So for us, since the board was established in 1986, under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is the first time that the promotion exercise of a year did not cross into another year. That is a president who cares and listens about his people. And also, Mr. President also gave what we call hazard allowance, peculiar allowance rather, to our paramilitary officers. These are conditions of service that was never had before. And I want to say this very critically, that for our officers in uniform, they will tell you it has never been as good as this in the Nigerian paramilitary service under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. With this, obviously the fire service is the only one I've not spoken about, but you have to pardon me, my time is up. And I hope that in due course we'll have time to talk more about the fire service, and of course even the ministry with regards to what we are doing with regards to expatriates, applications, and etc. Thank you so much for all this.
Please, can we make the applause a bit louder? Thank you very much.